Hi to all. There is news circulating everywhere that Indian economy going to be third biggest economy on 2030, and we will become somewhere around 7 trillion to 10 trillion on 2030. Means our economy going to be 7 trillion to 10 trillion on 2030. So today we are going to check what the Nifty going to be affected if our economy going to be 7 trillion to 10 trillion. Means we will check it by Nifty with the Nifty versus GDP, and we will also check it and compare it with Nifty with an ElliotWave. So we will check it by Nifty effect on GDP and GDP effect on Nifty, vice versa, and also we will try to check it with an ElliotWave forecasting. ElliotWave forecast on Nifty. Before checking that, we must know the habit of Nifty. Nifty have a habit where fifth wave is the largest wave, means fifth wave is the biggest among 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second wave mostly corrected 0.38% of first wave, and fourth wave mostly corrected 0.50% of third wave. This is Nifty. We know that there is two correction comes 2008 and 2020. If you acknowledge this as a 1, 2 and 3, 4, so for making an any wave, we know that our first wave should be a complete 5 wave, so that we got a 0. 0 means from 0 to 11. We know that this should be a 5 wave. Here we check that this is 1, 2, this is 3, 4, and a shoot up rally of fifth wave. So while on third wave, we know that there is two correction comes 2011 and 15, and there is an ending diagonal. For checking an ending diagonal, RSI mostly going to be negative, so we get an ending diagonal. Right now we on fifth wave, we on a fifth wave. We have a two minor correction comes on May and September. So right now we are going on a fifth wave. There is first on fifth wave. There is first wave correction, means we on a third wave of a fifth wave. So we know that Nifty have a correction, and our last wave correction, last fourth wave, there is a correction comes of 1 month every time. Means there is 1 month correction on every time, which comes on May, which comes on September, and there is a 1.5 month correction over here. So there we almost forecast that there is a next correction going to be a 1 month correction. So if there is 1 month correction and without an ending diagonal, means that our current wave, our first wave of fifth wave going to be completed somewhere March or March April also. If there is an ending diagonal, then it is going to be extract somewhere on July or even September, October also. We know that a Nifty cycle is of 9 to 10 years. Means our first cycle started with a dot-com, which comes on 2000, and it's completed on 2008, which was financial crisis, and now the next cycle completed on 2020, which is a cold cycle. Means every time is going to be somewhere on 9 to 10 years. So next cycle going to be completed somewhere on 2030, which is our fifth wave. So every financial institute who is saying that our India going to be a third largest economy, or our India going to be a 10 trillion economy, here our Elliott wave also suggested that our next cycle going to be a 10-year cycle. So means that Elliott wave and forecasting our every institutional is almost approx. As we are moving for the first wave, fifth wave, our target comes while extension of the third wave. We give a target of 15,648. As we know, the habit of Nifty mostly second wave comes for 38.38% of fifth wave, and we have a resistance of 12,403. So if we take this as a 0.38%, so we got our current Nifty target somewhere around 15,413 or 15,600. If we analyze and take a habit of Nifty, then our B wave comes somewhere around 12,000 or 12,200. For extension of the first wave, we got a target of 25K for the third wave. And third wave, we got a target of 25K, then we got a retracement of it. We know that fourth wave retracement mostly comes for 50% of third wave, and rarely comes for 38%. First we go and check for 38%. If 38%, it comes to somewhere around 20,200 or somewhere around 20,000, near about 20,000. If 20,000 is target, then fifth wave extension going to be somewhere around 261. We know that the fifth wave of Nifty has a habit of mostly or the biggest rally. So if it is the biggest rally, it rarely comes to 1.61. It mostly goes for 2.61. And if it's a 0.38%, it's the fourth wave, then fifth wave going to be at 53,400. But we know the Nifty habit of a point, not for 0.38%, Nifty habit of a 0.5% of a fourth wave. So we take or recommend mostly we go for 0.5%. So 0.5% give me an extension of 51,800. 51,800 is my complete target for 2030 or 31. Now we're going to check a correlated stock. Rupees, as we know that rupees is directly correlated to GDP and also with the Nifty. And 2002 to 2008, a sharp fall is there from, I think it's near about 0.38%, which is of 6 years. We see a highest and fifth wave rally, which is on 2002 to 2008. So we know that there is a rally comes when the Nifty, when the rupee is going strong. As we know that we are on the third wave of rupees and we are on ending diagonal while we are making a fourth wave of ending diagonals. As RSI give me better RSI give me better confirmation about it that we are going to fifth wave. So if you are saying that this is a 0.38%, which comes from 2002 to 2008, this is 6 years, and then if this is 0.38%, then more probably this is going to be 0.50%. If this is 0.50%, then it will take more time than this one. This is 6 years, then it is somewhere going to 9 years, 9 years or even 10 years also. This wave is going to be completed. The high waves of 13 going to be completed somewhere on the end of 2021. Then from there 9 years or 2020 from there 9 years somewhere coming around 2030 means this also give me the same criteria of the 2030 Indian 3 trillion economy. We know Dow Jones is replica of Nifty and Nifty is replica of Dow Jones. Both follow the same cycle. Dow Jones on the we know Dow Jones on the fifth wave rally, which has the same crisis cycle. Like they also go for .com, they also go for a financial crisis, they also go for pandemic. We will check some other stocks, Indian stocks like ICICI Bank. ICICI recently completed its leading diagonals and is going for the third wave, major third wave. We will go for TCS. We know TCS first correction comes on 2014 to 2017. Right now is going for third wave. In the third wave, minor AB already has been completed. So we are on the third of the third wave. HDFC Bank, we know the major correction of 1 and 2 means major wave already completed for 1 and 2. We have already 5 waves, major 1 to come. Now major third wave is going on. So we know that the bottom of Nifty is 775. It's on 1996. From there, it's reached to 6357 on 2008. That is somewhere around 8.2 times from the bottom of bottom is 2252. It reached to 12 to for 12430, which is somewhere around here. It takes 5.5 times. Now we are on the last leg, which is the highest leg and the biggest one. So we know that the band of the biggest and the lowest is somewhere around 5.5 times to 8.8 times. If we take an average of 5.5 times and 8.2 times, it will somewhere around 6.8. So if we multiply 7,511 with 6.8, we get an average high is 51,457. And the extension wave of Nifty gives me a target of 51,800. Now we have a data for Nifty versus GDP. We have 8 column over. The first column is a crisis cycle, second column is an year, third column is GDP by percentage, GDP by billion, Nifty low on that year, Nifty high on that year, Nifty low to ratio, Nifty low to ratio, GDP ratio, Nifty high to GDP ratio. Some important factor over this is that we have a cycle. We have a cycle of economic crisis. We have cycle of a crisis. We say that in 1990 we have a balance of payment crisis. 2000 we have a dot-com crisis. 2008 we have a financial crisis. 2020 we have a COVID. Means an average cycle comes somewhere around 10 years. Now we check for the GDP in a percentage. Some important fact for the check for the GDP in a percentage. Now after dot-com crisis, our GDP shrunk somewhere around 3.8%, and suddenly on the next year we expand on 8%. On the financial crisis, our GDP shrunk to 3.9% and expand to 8%. Now again on COVID, our GDP shrunk to 10 point minus 10 point. Now that's why everyone's saying that our GDP is going to be 8% on 2021. This is nothing. This is just a statistic data, and everyone's showing this to you all of you. Now the important factor of economy. On the dot-com crisis, we have no correction, but there is a correction on a financial crisis. We have some correction of financial crisis. Means on the 2008, our economy have some correction somewhere around 18 billion. But on the corona, but on the times, see, we have a 269 correction, 269 billion correction. Means on 2019 we have 2869, and 2020 we have 2600. So means that we have 269 billion wiped out. I am not saying that this is wiped out, we have lost. I don't know, but I am saying what the data is saying. Now the low of Nifty. We know the average of high and low before a dot-com crisis is 1078, which is almost near to the low of dot-com crisis. Now the average high and low, the average of high and low after dot-com crisis to financial crisis is 2267, which is low near to low of our current 2008 bottom. Now the average of high and low from financial crisis to the our COVID 2020 is 7354, which is almost near to 7511. Means that is some there is some correlation going on in Nifty high and low. Now check with low to the GDP. What the biggest point is that there is a constant growth lower on the lower side GDP to the lower side of Nifty to the GDP. Means after dot-com crisis we have a constant run on the GDP to the lower side 1.7, 1.8. On the financial year time, we have a constant growth on the lower side of the GDP versus a Nifty. Means we have a constant growth 1.8, 1.9. That means that we have a constant growth on this year. It can be possible. In the same, on the high side of the GDP, we have a constant higher side, means 3.3 and 3.8. We have a higher constant side. This is 5.0 and 5.3. That means we are again going to be higher constant side. Means we have 0.021. We have another higher side, the constant. Means that on if this is 5.3%, 5.3 times on the higher side of the Nifty, means that our next target on 2021 is somewhere around 15,587. If we go into, so we have an upper side which comes somewhere around 5,000, 15,500. Now low to the high average. We know that average of this before crisis, the low should be near to that crisis. And what about high? High is 1.6 times on the dot com crisis. High is 2.8 times on the financial crisis, and high is 1.8 times on the COVID crisis. So we know this is in a linear progression only. What about this? When the average we're taking, we got 1.78. When the on dot-com crisis, when average we take 2.67. On the financial crisis, an average we take on a COVID is 7354. This is double of from dot-com crisis to financial crisis. A money got doubled from financial crisis to a COVID crisis. Money got tripled. So this is in a linear regression. This is in a linear pattern. So we know that a crisis cycle is of a 10 years. So 10 years from a 2020 is somewhere around 2030. So if this is in a three times, this in a pattern of three times, then 7354 thrice of 7354 somewhere comes 23532. And high is somewhere an average of, because this is also linear, high is average of all the last 3 points. This is average of last 3 points, which comes 2.1. So we got a bottom, we got a 2353 is a bottom, and we got an high is as 2.1. Means from the high bottom to high is 2.1%, 2.1 times. So here the low we got 23532, and the high we got is 49417. Now what the government and other institute is projected economy going to be 9 trillion. Now what the major thing is that is the Nifty on higher side to the GDP is 5.3, and here 5.3 means it's going by 1.10%, 0.10%. Again it's going by 10%, means somewhere on 2020 we were somewhere on a 5.66 to 5.7 higher side of the GDP. If Nifty is 9 trillion and it's going to be 5.7 times, then our highest target going to be 51,300. Our lower side is going to be somewhere on 26,100 on 2030 or 31. Now check on the bottom when Nifty started. It started with 775, and the high on 2008 is going to be 6357. After that, after financial crisis, it comes from 2252, and high which so on January 2020 is 12430. Our 2000 give me 8.2 times. This gives me a 5.5 times again. So the average, we know we are on last leg. So last leg should be last leg should be the highest time, so we'll take this as a band, this one as a band. So on the higher side we take just an average of both, we give a 51,533. Here we also get the same thing, 51,300, both giving me the same target. So if we multiply 7,511 with 6.8, we will get an average, high is 751,457. And the extension wave of Nifty gives me a target of 51,800. The part is suggestion me that Nifty going to be 51k on 2030, and our economy going to be a third largest economy. So if you ask to me, then my personal observation, my personal technical says that yes, we are going to be 50k on 2030, somewhere around 2030. But I am not suggesting anyone to go according to my personal one. Which you have your own story, you have your own suggestion, you have your own analysis, go for that. But my suggestion is, I'm not giving a suggestion, but my analysis says that yes, we are going to be 50k. So if you like this, if you think this is helpful, please like and subscribe. I'm also giving a technical class on every day evening 8 p.m. If you want to join, the comes I will go for the Zoom app. My number is there, call me, it's completely free. Thank you.